News dump again. Goo leaves me sounderless. I tried one time. The last time Goo was out and stepping in for Goo today, Wesley Sykes of the Change My Mind podcast.
Hey, happy to be here.
He just leaves me up fucking shit creek without a paddle always. And now, it's a real Jordan flu game almost always when I'm stepping into these situations. But I think I got this figured out. It's incredibly awkward to yell news dump and not have the sounder behind it, just have dead air. So,
Well, and we've known this just from the group chat. He wants to make his job as irreplaceable as possible. So if he can leave it as much of a screw up so that you can't do his job, then he's winning, right?
Yeah, that's for damn sure. And I mean, he does do a lot of work here. I very rarely have to do stuff, so I thank him for that. But I would like the last time I tried to figure out how to play a sounder on this that wasn't already in our StreamYard account, it took me 30 minutes and I didn't even get close to making a peep. So
you guys use this might be a little inside podcasting. I don't know if this is interesting to the audience, but we just use the stuff from StreamYard. Whatever StreamYard builds into its platform, we just use that. So we're very bare bones here, but you have like external hardware to use.
Well, yeah. So Goo has a few sounders up here on the StreamYard software, but then he uses his board too because he can put the multiple imports.
That's right.
So anything that's on the board, I can't touch, including the news dump sounder, which I meant last time I mentioned that to him. He's like, "Oh, I'll have to put it on there," and that was, I don't know, 6 months ago. That didn't happen. So,
well, credit to him. He got us to Fashion Mac song like that on our last week's podcast.
Well, it's good to know he's doing work for someone. So,
yeah,
anyway,
exactly.
I digress. News dump. Wesley. I am incredibly humbled. Goo called it. Goo had higher hopes for these movies at the box office more than I did. The Barbenheimer box office reports are in, and they are impressive. The fourth largest box office weekend in history. That's all movies. Now, of course, if you add those two together, they might have been maybe top 10 all time. But even so, Barbie made a whopping 155 million domestically, 337 worldwide. Oppenheimer 80.5 domestically, 174 million worldwide.
Yeah, I went to go see last night as a crow flies, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning for our episode. Little shameless plug here for tonight's episode of Change My Mind. But the line to get into the Mashpee Theater was filled with just teenagers dressed in pink and like all this different sort of pink attire. I actually hadn't seen a movie theater that kind of like popping for one specific movie that you could kind of like guess, like, people dress up for Star Wars and that sort of thing.
Right.
I haven't seen that in a long time. So that was kind of cool just as a movie theater fan.
Yeah, no, I actually went this morning, saw a matinee showing of Barbie, 11:15 in the morning. The theater was nearly full, and it was all ages, all every type of person you could have thought of would be there. There was like 6 or 7 kids there. I was honestly surprised to see that good of a showing on the Monday afterwards too. So Barbie's not slowing down anytime soon, and obviously 90% and 90% on Rotten Tomatoes and 80 on Metacritic. Everyone's liking it. I really liked it. I don't know if I loved it, but I probably have it in like the 4 to 8 range on 2023 movies. It's baseline just really enjoyable. It's a pretty funny movie. Goo and I will be talking about it at some point once we figure out our schedules. I have seen some of the backlash from some of the real far right.
Yeah, you said everyone loved it, right? I don't think the top G's loved it.
No, there's they make patriarchy jokes in here, so that type of crowd is not gonna like the movie. Oppenheimer, I think, was projected to make like 50 million, and that made 80 million. That's huge for that. I think that's R-rated too. 80 million for an R-rated movie is insane. You very rarely see that.
And it's a biopic period piece that's, upwards of 3 hours. So it's going to be a bit of a slog going into it. That didn't really deter people. Obviously, Christopher Nolan, with the director there, he hits gold on pretty much everything he does, right? So yeah, that's great news for that. I'm excited for that movie. I'll probably wait for Barbie to hit streaming, and probably the same for Oppenheimer as well. But I'll probably watch Oppenheimer before Barbie.
I'm actually getting Oppenheimer tomorrow morning too. I'm actually on vacation this week, so the world is my oyster. I'm excited to get to that tomorrow. That's getting 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, 89 on Metacritic. So it's basically everything we thought it was going to be. I'll be a little surprised if I don't like it more than I liked Barbie. Barbie was good, but Oppenheimer should be great.
Well, and the funny thing I keep seeing on the internet now is Ryan Gosling getting a little bit of attention for the best supporting actor role, and so would Robert Downey Jr. So you may have Barbenheimer facing off once again at the Oscars if that goes on. I don't know how that works with SAG and all that
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
but
Barbie did a good job too. There's obviously a cast of characters in there, but they really lean into the acting chops of Robbie and Gosling, and they're both tremendous. I mean, we knew Robbie was going to be great in that role, but Gosling absolutely murders this role. He's so good.
well, I love that whole kind of straight face deadpan comedy that he's been doing and for promotion and all the interviews leading up to it. I've shared it in the group a couple times, but the Kenough song and like using Kenergy and like all those type of Ken puns, I'm here for it, quite frankly.
Yeah, and I think that just the months long battle talking back and forth about these two movies propelled both movies to probably double what everyone initially thought months ago.
Yeah, well, this is the age old music trick, right? I feel like Kanye and 50 Cent did this whenever they had battles or albums coming out in the same time. J. Cole and maybe Kendrick Lamar, I want to say. I could be off on that one, but they would kind of say, "Oh, who's going to hit number one?" And then they all end up just making gangbusters, at the bank.
Yeah, and the unfortunate aftermath of these two making so much money is the movie you'll be talking about this week. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 didn't even get to $20 million in its second week after making almost 60 last week, I believe.
Yeah, and this is sad because I think a lot of people looked at this as almost like another Tom Cruise sequel from Top Gun Maverick. It's almost that same type of like action blockbuster.
Right,
So I
and
think
McQuarrie made that movie too.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So I don't think it translated as enough. I don't think we got that same nostalgia. I like the movie; it was great action, but all the performances felt a little wooden. Like the line delivery by Tom Cruise, I don't know. You saw the movie, right? It just felt like a little robotic. I didn't buy into all of it.
To me, it was more cheesy than the other McQuarrie movies, and it leaned into it a little bit. But I also felt like it took me out of the movie a little bit as well. Like the last three, I thought none of these are realistic, but this one really leans to the extremes of not really believing some of the stuff.
Yeah, no, and again, it's kind of a weird villain to kind of wrap your head around too. I mean, it's something that's kind of on the topic of everyone's mind here, I think, in a lot of ways, but it's also kind of like a nebulous type of villain. So putting a face to it with Gabriel. Gabriel, sure, I'll say it. I think helped a little bit, but I don't know. It was tough to kind of wrap my head around. But yeah, what did you mention the second week drop off yet?
I did not. I didn't have numbers on that, so it only made almost 20, less than 64% drop off from last week. So put that in context.
Yeah, and that's tough because I was just looking up because we at CMM we love the second week drop off. So Google says the normal second week is about 40%. Anything greater than 60 indicates a weak future performance. And so for reference, Multiverse of Madness, right, got horrible word of mouth right after that first week, 67 drop. I think the same could be said for Thor, Love and Thunder, something that you love, but a 68% drop. Ant-Man goes up to 70. And then the most recent comic book movie that's done poorly, The Flash, 72% drop.
Yeah, that is sore company to say the least. 64% drop off. And now I'm doing the math quickly in my head here. It made less than 2 weeks than Oppenheimer made opening weekend. So that is not a good sign, as good as that movie is. And I wonder if some of it is because people were like, I'm going to go to the theater sometime in the next couple of weeks. I'll wait for Barbie, or I'll wait for Oppenheimer instead of the seventh Mission Impossible movie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe this is an issue that we're running into with these broken up sequels where you have part 1 and part 2. I may not think this, particularly with Avengers Infinity War. That's my favorite of the two movies. But I think people get upset, like Dune, for example, with having a movie that just ends and knowing that there's going to be something coming out there. I think there's a lot of exception to that. Across the Spider-Verse is one of those as well. But I think how much we get of those can wear thin pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think, and I did get some pushback about my love for Across the Spider-Verse compared to me kind of putting down Dune Part 1. And I think the difference is Across the Spider-Verse and Infinity War have actual like jaw-dropping moments. Dune didn't have that. So it never quite satisfied you and was like, oh, you'll have to wait 3 years. So that's, I think, a little bit of a difference there. But that said, now that I have waited the 3 years, I'm very excited for Dune Part 2.
Oh yeah, and that's kind of following the same mold of Lord of the Rings, right? That's not a
Right.
real part one or part two, but Fellowship of the Ring into the Two Towers is all kind of building to that Two Towers story,
Right.
right?
And that's why I think Two Towers is the best of the three because it
Yeah,
has all the buildup out of the way.
absolutely. So yeah, hopefully that's the case for Tune, right? Is that what we say on this
Yeah,
program?
yeah,
Tune.
it's a tune. At least Scoot does. News dump. Speaking of Oppenheimer, its director Christopher
Mm.
Nolan was on the Rich Eisen program this past week, obviously doing promo for the movie. And Rich Eisen asked a great question. I had never heard it phrased this way before. He said, "When you're kind of scrolling TV, what are your remote drop movies? The movies that you get to it and you're like, you know what? I'm going to watch the rest of it, whether you're 30 minutes in, an hour in." And he said
Ah.
Talladega Nights. Talladega Nights is one of his favorite comedies of all time, which I think makes sense for you or I. I never expected that from Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, you think you would have chose something a little bit more highbrow, something a little bit more sophisticated, but I
For
like
sure.
this. This shows great range out of Christopher Nolan here. So I think that shows it ingratiates him with the public. You know how like people used to vote on the president, like who would they rather have a beer with? Like
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
kind of like that moment for me.
I think he's doing a little bit of damage control too, because he has come off a little highbrow
Yeah,
in the past answering some questions. Like I would have thought he might have said maybe full Monty, like something in that range, maybe a
sure.
little off
Guy
the page
Ritchie
there.
type of film. Yeah.
Yeah, something to that effect. But Talladega Nights, and he also even said, "If you ain't first, you're last," which Rich Eisen lost it when he actually quoted the movie because I don't think anyone expected that. A second thing here, maybe more notable, but I liked the Talladega Nights thing more.
Mm,
In a separate interview, he Nolan said he would be honored to make a James Bond movie, adding that the
love this.
influence of these movies in my filmography is embarrassingly apparent.
Yeah, I mean, I love this. This feels like a no-brainer, right? He's a British director. He has strong ties with British debonair, handsome actors, whether that's Tom Hardy, Christian Bale. You know, Cillian Murphy's probably too slender to be a James
Yeah,
Bond, but
yeah,
you
that's
know,
true.
like these are all these like United Kingdom English type of actors that would be perfect for a James Bond role. So I think if he could pull in, you know, some of his favorite actors to work with, and then add that Christopher Nolan kind of mysterious look to everything. I'm totally here for it.
I'll tell you, I've never really been a bondage boy, but if Christopher Nolan gets attached to that project, I'm going to be all in a Bond movie. And the minute he signs up for one, I think we all think he's going to cast Tom Hardy as James Bond, right?
That would be great too. I'm still open to Idris Elba, even if he's not open to
That
it
would
too.
be a
I think
great
that would be
option too.
great.
Yeah, he's getting up there in the age too. They're both actually a little older than you would think, but I'd
Yeah,
be all
Hardy
in
can
on
play
either.
younger though, for sure.
That's true. That's true. News dump. A somewhat lackluster San Diego Comic-Con
Yeah.
2023. We got some trailers coming up here. I think the whole actors writers strike thing really played a part in
Mhm.
this because in probably the last 4 or 5 years that Goo and I have been doing this podcast, we plan our schedule around Comic-Con and trailer releases and like that. And this year it was just an afterthought.
Typically a whole episode, isn't it? Or isn't it
Yes.
just a whole episode devoted to it?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep. So the first, actually, let me. I know I got the news dump sounder in here somewhere. Let me be real professional with this thing.
Oh, I love this here.
Oh boy, here we go. Wait for it. Wait
I'm gonna
for
let the
it.
dead air go. Yeah.
Yeah, Goo will edit this out in post. Maybe I don't even know. Oh, now I'm not even gonna be able to find it. Am I?
Well, I broke out a polar seltzer, so hopefully I get some gas going, get some flatulence, some burps on
Here it
for him.
is.
I know how much he loves it.
What a great build up this was.
My dear Mac and Goobers, welcome to the trailer park.
All right, glad I spent 30 seconds finding that.
Well worth
First
it.
trailer, the most probably popular one from the weekend here is The Marvels coming out
Mhm.
November 10th. Of course, starring a very strong looking these days Brie Larson.
Mm.
I forget the actress that plays Kamala Khan and Monica Rambeau there.
Yeah.
I am
Tayana,
actually
Tayana Prince, Tayana Price,
Paris.
Paris. Yeah, I think we're right around
We're
it.
all around it.
Mhm.
So those two characters, Kamala and Monica, I really liked in their first go rounds, and
Agreed.
I think that's what I'm looking forward to see how they sort of translate on the big screen. And it is an interesting concept where when they use their powers, they're going to be swapping. So they
Mhm.
might end up with some really cool scenes here. So I'm sort of holding out hope for this one.
Yes, and I believe early rumors had this as a musical. Was that do you remember that at all?
You know what? Now that you say that, that kind of does sound familiar. I
So it
bet.
looks like they scrapped that idea entirely, which I think is for the better.
Yeah, once they started with some misses, they're like, all right, maybe we'll get less bold with this one.
Yeah, but this looks interesting though. I'm intrigued by it. You know, I don't think I have huge expectations for it, but I think if it furthers the story and gets us closer to maybe a Fantastic Four introduction, I'm here for that as well. I think my one question about the timing of this trailer being released, even the first one too, was why do it before the end of Secret Wars? It almost makes some of Secret Wars kind of null and void because Sam Jackson is alive. And he's like dealing with the Marvels.
Yeah,
right?
that's true too. I actually didn't really consider that because you see,
And he's like back in space and
yeah,
everything.
you see
right?
Nick Fury in this trailer. I also we'll get to the Secret Invasion stuff. I have an interesting point to make about that.
All right, I'm
Do
excited.
you think there's something? So they got to start tying stuff together in this phase at some point. Do you think something in this final episode of Secret Invasion will tie into this movie?
I think so. Maybe not just aside from the scrolls. Like my guess is Samuel Jackson and Gaia go up to the Saber studio or whatever.
Yeah,
up there,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. All right,
and
yeah.
some of the scrolls go up there, and there's a little bit more integration of the
Sure, all
skulls
right.
and humans. And
Yeah,
stuff, but
that makes sense. I'm just interested to see because I believe it's going to be the first time we're seeing characters introduced on their TV shows actually make it to a movie. I don't think we've quite seen that yet.
Oh yeah,
This
that's a
Multiverse
good
of
point.
Madness, I don't think had Monica in it, did it?
No, I mean if you want to count Kang from Loki, maybe, but
Okay.
that's
yeah, true. That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. But
for the
we're holding
main
out hope for
characters
that.
though, yeah, no, I'm here. I'm with you on that. I'm excited for this though. So, you
Yeah.
know, I'm not overly excited, but you know, we need some more Marvel content here. So we've been a little bit starved.
Glass half full for that one.
Yeah.
News dump. A Haunting in Venice trailer. This one's coming out September 15th. This is the follow-up to Murder on the Orient Express, which I did not see.
Me
I didn't
neither.
think it looked good. For some reason, this trailer's pretty fucking cool. I really liked this trailer.
We're in the exact same boat here. This kind of caught me off guard. I'm very intrigued by it. You're conducting seances with Michelle Yeoh. I like Tina Fey kind of being like a Sherlock Holmes type of character
yep,
there.
yep.
Like I love her in 30 Rock. I've been rewatching that on Hulu like over and over as I fall asleep. So
Right.
kind of my Tina Fey stock is pretty high right now. So I like her in that kind of different role. So yeah, I'm maybe not a theater movie for me, but maybe like a rainy fall night, staying in the house, want to cozy up, have some hot cocoa.
There was just something about Murder on the Orient that felt like corny. This doesn't have that vibe to it. It just seems it seems more fun, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. And I like a good whodunit mystery. You know,
course,
I'm here for
right.
it.
I like being, swerved along the way. So
Yeah, swerve me, curve me.
news
Is that what the
dump.
kids say?
Yeah, the kids are all saying that. The Harley Quinn season 4 trailer dropped just before it's released this week. This show comes out at the end of the week on Max, I guess is what we're calling it now. You don't watch the show, but for anyone interested, it looks like it's going to be much of the same. I don't know why they would change it, but it's Harley dealing with kind of becoming a good guy now. And it looks like Lex Luthor's going to be playing a big role in this season. So I don't love this show as much as Goo or Fryer or.
But you're all caught up
Billy
though.
D. Yeah, I'm all caught up. I like it. It's one of those ones that like when I have nothing else to watch, I'll catch up with 2, 3, 4 episodes. So
Gotcha. Yeah, because again, like you said, Nick loves it. I just you file it under you can't watch everything.
yeah,
You know?
perfect. News dump. Winning Time season 2 trailer also set to come out on Max. That's for August 6th. Did you catch this one?
No. So I saw the trailer of this and I caught parts of Winning Time season 1. Never finished it throughout, but I saw some clips of it. Never watched like everything in its entirety, but I could get in for the Boston LA Bird Magic stuff here. It looked like it seemed a little bit more centered around the Celtics and stuff here. So I'm here for that.
Yeah, season 1 I thought started out with a bang. I loved the first like 2, 3, 4 episodes, and then I just was like It wasn't quite fulfilling expectations. I still enjoyed the first season. It's definitely a different show than most other shit on TV. Um, I'm more excited for season 2 now, knowing it's going to be heavy on the Boston versus LA thing,
Mhm.
heavy on the Magic versus Bird thing, which they just sort of teased in season 1.
Yeah, and it's not who was that comedian who was supposed to be playing
It was gonna
Bo
be
Burnham?
Bo Burnham was
Yeah.
set to play Larry Bird, and I think because there was delays and stuff, he dropped out, and I don't even remember the name of the guy that's playing him now, but he does look exactly like Larry Bird.
Yeah, it does look like him. But I was kind of shocked when I first heard Bo Burnham, but apparently he can ball. Apparently he's like I know he's tall, but apparently he can kind of hoop it up.
Yeah, it is because he looks awkward. He doesn't look like he'd
Mhm.
be athletic, but I guess when you're that tall your whole life, you guess you have to play basketball at some point.
Yeah, whether you like it or not, right?
Yeah. News dump. Gen V. This is the spinoff to The Boys on Amazon Prime. This is set for September 29th. And this was a decent trailer. I guess I'm just encouraged from this because we saw some characters that were from The Boys that are crossing over into this.
Yeah, and this is kind of like if I had my elevator pitch, right? This is Euphoria meets The Boys. That's the vibe that I got from this trailer here. It's going to be spooky and sexy with kind of like the gore and raciness of Euphoria and The Boys, all kind of wrapped in there. Maybe a Riverdale type of vibe.
Yeah, a little sexy teen drama thrown into the mix here to an already super graphic show, which they didn't hold back in the trailer either. So that's what I always forget about The Boys when I go back and watch an episode, like how dark and how gory it is. And it just makes me laugh for no reason half the time.
Yeah, and this is the Boys as like a series or IP overall is something that I always kind of like, oh, I'm not sure if I want another season of it when I'm like away from it. But when I get that new season, I'm like, this is so fucking good. So I always kind of sleep on it to when it comes out. And that's kind of my initial thought with this. I was like, oh, do we really need another superhero show? But it's been done so well every season that I think I got to give it a shot.
After the last season of The Boys, I kind of sat there and I was like, there is literally nothing on television, even on the big screen. There's no even movies doing what The Boys is doing. It's just so unique compared to everything else. Especially in the genre.
It's funny. It's got some heart. You're invested with like most of the characters there, whether you want them to win or die or win or lose. It's a really well done show.
News dump. I say that, maybe I'll walk it back a bit because a show that had a little boys like gore, although this is animated, is Invincible. We got the trailer for season 2. This is also hitting Prime on November 3rd.
Yeah, and again, this was another show that like I think Nick kind of forced me. It's like, hey, let's do this show. I think there you go, Goo. You can edit that out later. But this is a show that I think just through the group chat that it kind of forced me into. Everyone was going so nuts about it. So I was like, I got to give this a shot. And it lived up to it. I really did like it. So I'm watching season 2 here. This looks like another great show. It looks like another good follow-up here. A ton of new voices already added on to a great standout voice cast. We got our guy Tim Robinson, Daveed Diggs, Leah Thompson, Ben Schwartz, Paul F. Tompkins, Callista Flockhart, Tatiana Maslany, who I think is She-Hulk.
Yes,
right?
that's
her. Yep. Jay Farrow, Scoot McNairy, Chloe Bennett. There's big names getting added into the season.
I did not see that Tim Robinson got added. That makes me pretty happy. Because you just know the character he's playing is going to be an absolute fucking goofball.
Yeah, well, and that's going to be the fun thing to try to figure it out. Like, which one is he? Which one is he here? It's like, the same thing with Ben Schwartz. He has that also kind of recognizable zany voice. So I'm excited to see which one he is there too.
Yeah, Invincible is the perfect 1 episode test. If the end of that first episode doesn't draw you in, it's not for you.
Yeah, and I'm not a huge anime guy. I think I can speak for you as well on that.
I don't watch any.
But this works for me.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. News dump. This wasn't less of a trailer, more of a teaser. They announced the latest season of American Horror Story, the Ryan Murphy show. I think I stopped watching after season 3 or 4. But I am intrigued by this, not because I think it's going to be good, but because amongst the trio of stars announced, Emma Roberts, Cara Delevingne, and Kim Kardashian as the 3rd lead in this show.
Now that is very interesting. Now she is a witch, so this shouldn't be much of a stretch for her.
Right.
And what to do. My wife is not going to like that comment, but no. I mean, I'm not a big American Horror Story fan. I'm not a big horror person in general. I think the only other reason why I watched the show was to watch Lady Gaga a few years ago with my wife, another person that she loves, another witch in American Horror Story. So I'll probably be dragged to see a couple episodes of this too.
I'm for sure going to watch an episode. I don't know if I'll make it any more than that. But if they have Kim Kardashian scenes like they had with Lady Gaga in that season, maybe I will watch several episodes.
Does Ray J make an appearance though? That's what we all want to know.
That's a great question. That's a great question. News dump. Now to the good topic here. Now, if let's put a spoiler alert here for anyone that is not caught up on Secret Invasion. Skip ahead 15 minutes, finish the episode. There won't be much after this. Wes and I are going to talk about sort of what might happen here in the Secret Invasion finale and sort of what has led up to it to sort of put things in context and run through some possibilities. So, Wes, I have a laundry list of things we've learned so far during this season, during these 5 episodes.
Just before that, I think this is kind of like the resurrection of the podcast that I did with your co-host. Now, do you have a pun-filled name for this segment?
No, I do not. I'm bad with the puns. I'll get like one every 6 months that'll absolutely kill Goo because I never have good ones. But yeah, he loves the puns. Big pun.
Let me see. Mac no. We'll work on maybe by the end of the episode something will come up.
Yeah, you'll have about 3 minutes here as I read all this bullshit. All right, so again, spoiler alert: if you haven't watched, dip out now because there's a lot of spoilers coming up here. Very early on, we learn Everett Ross is a Skrull, has been a Skrull. They don't necessarily explain when that happened. We have to assume after the events of Black Panther because he gets shot in Black Panther and remains a human. So sometime after that on the timeline.
That's right. But so presumably in Wakanda Forever, he could have been a Skrull. And like, what's the deal with Val at that point too?
Right.
Like,
And so, know? His ex, how does she play into it? And how, to your point at the beginning of this episode, how do maybe her and Coleman link up, at which I think Sonya Fallsworth is her character's name.
She's been great in this whole series too. Yeah, I like her a lot.
And that's the acting in the show has been top notch. Everyone has done a great job. I think even Rhodey, he was acting odd, but we obviously figure out why at a little sassy point.
He's a sassy little Rhodey.
Yeah, he's a sassy little Rhodey. New rock stars, by the way, is calling him Scrody, which I really appreciate.
Yes, that's great too, and that's also pretty much my I don't know, it's like cheat sheet, like episode guide that I watch along with too. Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah, they usually have it out like by Wednesday night, and I'm like perfect because I need this. Maria Hill gets offed by Gravik, the villain of the show, and they basically frame it as Nick Fury doing it.
Yeah, and that comes back a little bit later, a little something like we. What am I going to say? We like to call blackmail.
Yes, there you go.
Damn it.
We learn the Skrulls have been living in sort of this abandoned Chernobyl-like area of Russia called Skrullos. Much like the Asgardians got New Asgard. Similar situation, except they're off the grid. That hasn't really played into much yet. Like, I don't know why. Maybe because they've infiltrated the Russian government, why they haven't been sort of like, crept in on, but that's there.
Yeah, and I guess like no one really goes near a nuclear fallout site, something like that.
True, although Chernobyl has become sort of like a tourist place, hasn't it?
I think it is, and I think there's like a whole bunch of crazy wildlife that's grown.
Yes,
around
that's right.
Too.
There's actually, I don't know if it's a documentary, if it was like a piece on one of those Nat Geo type channels. There's it's like the wolves of Chernobyl or something, and you can see how all those things have mutated over the years, which is crazy to think about. We also learn that there are 1 million Skrulls on Earth, and most of them came here after the blip, which also coincided with Fury being in space. And that's a pretty big revelation, more so for Fury and the people in the MCU, more so than the audience. I think we sort of assumed that there was a shit ton of Skrulls on Earth.
Yeah, and they're kind of growing up in the ranks too, right? As you see, when they get together, some of them are like a Tucker Carlson type media personality, and then some
they've done a good parody of that type
political.
Stuff so far,
yeah. That's Shooter McGavin too, I think, right?
Yes,
that's
who it is. Christopher something. I forget his last name.
Mm-hmm.
Gravik eventually becomes the leader of the Skrulls, and then I still can't quite figure out, which I think with this finale is going to answer. Sonya Fallsworth's motivations are not clear at all and have not been
Right.
the whole time. She's clearly working against Gravik, but not completely on the same side as Fury. So I wonder how those two are going to align here in the finale.
And maybe I just don't remember this. Did they say like who she is, like what entity she's working for? Or it's just like the U.S. government or
No, I think
British
some
intelligence?
British thing, and we saw in the last episode, she outs one of the Skrulls there and sort of takes power.
Right.
But they have not made many things clear with her, which is why I think we'll probably see her going forward in the Thunderbolts or something like that. Because
Yes.
she seems to be setting up as the same type of player as Valentina Consuelo, whatever the fuck her name is. We learned, and this was the coolest moment of the show for me, and what truly kind of brought me into the show and was like, all right, I like what they're doing here. We learned the Skrulls and their scientists are working with 4 previously seen powers in the MCU. They have Groot's sort of expanding arm type stuff. They have Frostbeast's DNA, which I don't think we've quite seen play out yet.
I don't think so.
I don't think we've seen the Cull Obsidian stuff either.
Not really, but it's been alluded to, the hand and stuff like that, right?
Right. Who is, of course, Thanos' grunt. And I think we saw the Frostbeast in the Thor movies. And then Extremis, which we've seen a bunch of times now from Iron Man 3. And the Skrulls are using these, or at least Gravik has, to become a Super Skrull with all 4 of those powers. And that's really interesting to me. And I think the biggest ramification from this show is that machine they've built and what the possibilities that could mean going forward.
Well, and this is kind of my spicy take here. So I think if I'm allowed to do it at this point, we already said
go for it.
right?
Yeah,
Sonya Fallsworth is working with Val. So I think at the end she takes the plans of that machine that she was trying to get her hands on,
which they just stole from that scientist too at the end of episode 5.
Exactly. So they get those plans, they send them to Val, and then Thunderbolt Ross becomes Red Hulk, President Red Hulk, through using the Extremis, maybe specifically.
Yeah, Cull Obsidian too. I think would be a pretty good Hulk transfer too. So maybe that's where that pops up right there.
So I think that works out. And again, this kind of comes with like the timing of certain things. Like I don't know why they announced Harrison Ford and that President Hulk was going to be in Captain America Brave New World, I think it's called now.
Yep.
Because then you just know the president's going to die throughout Secret Invasion the whole time. You're just kind of waiting for the president to die.
Oh shit! I did not even think about that.
So maybe it wasn't that big of a deal, but now
that you say that, no, that's a great point. And of course, the timelines. You never really know. They are coming out with like a book this fall to kind of reset the timeline, or at least tell us what they say it is. That's a great point. So I wonder. I don't know if it'll be in the runtime of the show. I wonder if there's a post credit here with her, Valentina, maybe Thunderbolt Ross, like going over the machine or plans of the machine, sort of for a tease for Thunderbolts and that whole thing.
I would love that. I think that would be great. But again, like just going back, like you don't have to make all these announcements, especially with like how that whole slate got pushed back as it was, and then you have the SAG strike going on that's going to push everything else back. Right. It's like, all right, it's like announcing Fantastic Four 3 years ago.
Right.
What's up with that?
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, and now because of the strike, and I always say television's hurt more by this, but the anticipation you have for some movies and them getting bumped off, and what happens, there's certain movies set for certain slates, so they don't just get bumped a month. They get bumped 8 a year, and it's just incredibly frustrating, especially in a shared universe like this.
Yeah, because then it pushes the whole timeline back, right?
Right. We learn Gravik, has that confirmed plan of creating the Super Skrulls. And then Gaia, in this sort of same scene, we learn she doesn't quite trust him. She has been working with her father, and they sort of insinuate that she uses the machine herself and that she also has taken on these Super Skrull powers, unbeknownst to Gravik.
I didn't think that was very well detailed. Maybe I just wasn't paying close enough attention, but I really needed the previously on in the following episode to pick up like, how did she stay alive?
Right.
What I mean? Or how did she get those powers?
Well, I thought, and going into the show, I thot for sure Talos Ben Mendelsohn was going to die at some point. So I thought it would make no sense to kill both of them. So that's why I was like, he shot her, but I don't think she's really dead. And then actually New Rockstars helped with that too, because Voss was all over that from the beginning. She's probably a Super Skrull.
Well, yeah, and I also didn't really buy into Gaia and Talos's relationship at all. I know they're supposed to be estranged, and they're not really like at or seeing at eye level on everything. But I don't know. I just didn't really buy like any of their interaction. I didn't even feel like
It was
we were
little
just forced into that. A little
Yeah,
bit.
it was not as emotional as you would expect from a father-daughter combo. I was just kind of excusing it with like maybe she grew up disagreeing entirely with the way he's handled this whole Earth
Yeah.
stuff. But even still, there was a real lack of emotion between the two. That's for sure.
Yeah, I just didn't buy it totally. Yeah.
We learn Rhodey and Vara, Fury's wife, have been working with Gravik, and more importantly, we eventually learn that Rhodey is actually a Skrull.
Not only a Skrull, but a female Skrull.
Yeah.
Hence the sassiness.
Yeah, a female one at that, which is a really interesting thing. So I'm wondering who she ends up being, right? Because we don't know what Skrull that is.
Right. Yeah, who is she, and how long has she been taking over Rhodey's body?
Because at this point, we presume that Gaia's mother is dead. But it could be Talos's wife somehow. I guess it could be Gravik's mother or the woman that introduced as well.
Yeah, okay, I like that actually. I think that could be good there because we haven't really seen much from her. That would be a nice kind of full circle moment there.
I just don't know like what Skrull he would trust to do, like, because that's obviously the most prominent role that they have. I mean, they get the president stuff, but Rhodey connects to so many things that he would be more vital than any of the actual, figureheads. So I'm intrigued by the two things I'm most intrigued by is what Fallsworth's motivations and who the hell that Skrull is.
Yeah, and where's the War Machine armor? Like, why hasn't that been taken out yet?
Yeah, that's bizarre too, for sure. We also I get this great scene between Vara and Fury in the kitchen where they're both sort of ready to kill the other one, but really don't want to. And they sort of harken back to some of their best memories. They both end up bluffing. I just thought it was a great scene. The actress that is playing Vara has done a great job in every scene in Fury. She has if Samuel L. Jackson is Samuel L. Jackson. I have no idea who this actress is. She's been on par with SLJ the whole time.
No, they were great. I really love that scene, and I can't remember. I don't know. Is it James Joyce? I don't know who the poet was, but it's like I just want to be loved and to be loved, or whatever the line was, and they repeated at the end like that. I thought that was nice. I thought that
it was a good connection right there, and I love the question she asks when he walks away, like, "Would you have loved me in my true form?" And he gives a great answer. He's like, "We'll never know." It was just, it was a good. They still love each other, but don't quite trust each other moment.
Well, and this is before, maybe not us. Maybe this isn't for us to say, but I think someone needs to have the conversation about the Skrulls appropriating Black culture and possibly doing blackface.
Yeah, that's
every late night host gets caught with it. We
right.
gotta be able to bring this up.
That'll be another podcast for another day. Although now that this has nothing to do with that, but I have had a point. I don't understand why when they change form, the clothes change. They have not explained that. Why do the clothes change?
Oh, that's interesting. Maybe if it's touching the skin.
I don't know. That is a hard one to explain, and it's not ruining the show for me. But I'm like, they just straight up don't explain how the clothes change.
Well, and the other, maybe this is an unanswerable question here, but if they needed the Super Skulls to hide amongst, hide in the shadows or hide in public there in plain sight. But you also have the Widow's mask that the Black Widows use that gets introduced in here. Right. And even Fury says, "Oh, it's we don't have the full body one. That's another prototype or whatever."
Right,
it makes reference to there's actual full body suit. So then why would you even need the Skrulls to begin with?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a really good. Maybe the Black Widow stuff is not breathable. You can only do it's like a mascot. You can only do a couple hours in that thing.
I did love that callback though, and then with the Mission Impossible, like fresh in my mind there, it all kind of plays.
It does work well with the timing of it. We get the major moment towards the end of episode 4 is Gravik and his crew attack the American presidential cavalcade to make it look like the Russians did it, and ultimately here they don't end up killing the president, but Gravik does kill Talos, and more importantly, Fury shoots Gravik and learns that he's now enhanced. This is not a normal Skrull he's dealing with.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's a super cool scene. I think what I'll give credit for this series doing more than any other Disney Plus series is kind of pushing that violence boundary. You see the face kind of get blown off there. A little bit later, you see Gravik go in like full beast mode against his own people. Very cool scene. So I'll give them credit for kind of pushing the envelope a little bit more than on that Disney platform.
Yeah, it's true. We haven't really seen violence to that level in these shows. It sort of harkens back to what they were doing with the Netflix Marvel shows, actually.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the only one that can really that comes to mind immediately is U.S. Agent with the shield, right? And you see the
Right.
bloody shield,
Good
he's kind of
point.
bashing over the guy's
Good
head, but
point.
that's like
Yeah.
even then you're not really seeing everything. It's
Yeah, it
kind of
was like
a
off
little more
camera, and then you
artistic.
saw
Yeah.
splatters, basically.
Hmm.
And you mentioned here another big thing that happens. I think at the beginning of episode 5 is you can see now these Skrulls that have been backing Gravik the whole time are sort of second guessing stuff here because he's getting real bold and they're not necessarily agreeing with stuff. And a member voices that, and Gravik just straight up murks him. That guy's gone, which tells everyone else that if you aren't 100% with him, he'll just kill you. He doesn't need you. There's a million other that can take your place, which is a
Hmm.
real interesting message to send. Like in a moment where you probably need as much support as you can get.
Yeah, and maybe a time where like you want to give some hope and kind of like bring up the group together, and you're like, no, you are faceless and nameless. You don't have a voice. You will
Right,
listen to
right.
everything I say, and that even comes through. I think Voss points this out, but when they first meet or when he first meets Fury, they all transform to him, right, in
Yeah,
that big
yeah,
room
yeah.
there. So it's all like it's all kind of centered around Gravik.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, we get that scene that he kicks ass with a bunch of scrolls there after they finally revolt. We also get an odd pairing of Geyer and Vara, who fight off the other Gravik cronies sent there to kill Vara. Um, I,
What you think of that fight scene action sequence?
I was a little surprised that if Gaia has all these super scroll powers, why she wasted so much time like doing regular fighting.
Yeah, why not? Why use a gun at that point, right? Yeah.
Right, like you could have just beasted all of these guys. You could have taken 13 shots to the chest and you would have survived. So I
Mhm.
wonder, maybe she just has one, maybe she just has extremis. I don't know. I'm not really sure
Yeah,
how that
or
works
or
either.
maybe she's just, like, not really confident coming out to people that she's a super scroll now. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's true too. Maybe she doesn't fully trust Vara. Maybe that gets back to Gravik. Because the big thing here is
Mhm,
that no one knows that she is a super scroll besides her. So that'll probably play up in the finale here. Uh
mhm,
Gaia does tell Fury in this episode, and I forget what the episode was. Oh, it was called The Harvest. That
mhm.
Gravik took those 4 specimens because he couldn't find the quote unquote harvest. Now, this is obviously the big question surrounding what the harvest is in the finale when Fury and Fallsworth go to Finland, assuming for the harvest. What can it possibly be? Is it a blood sample from all the Avengers? Because that's, I guess, what I'm thinking it is.
That was my impression of it, and, they have the Captain Marvel sample, right? So we already know, that's there, which is weird because 'cause I'm not sure how she would bleed. That again, Eric Voss
Right,
talks about that a little bit, so
right.
that brings up that question there, but I'm very interested in this almost as much as the, Skrull 4 powers of the Super Skrulls and how they kind of incorporated that, but what this is all about, I love them using the Battle of Earth and kind of drawing that back in as maybe a pivotal moment, that will kind of shift the framework of the MCU. So I think that'll be really, really cool. But I hope they do something with it.
Yeah, I'm starting to think, you mentioned Red Hulk. I wonder if maybe this machine and what they're doing leads down the path to the Fantastic Four too, because these are all questions we've all been pondering for a while now. How they're going to introduce these new enhanced people that somehow just haven't been there before, right? So are they going to create them? And will it be a mess? Will the
Hmm.
Fantastic Four be working on this machine and it explodes, and that's their origin sort of type thing? So
Oh, I
there's
like
actually
that.
there's
That's
a
kind
lot
of
of things
interesting.
surrounding the possibilities with this, and it wouldn't surprise me if they spend this whole show and the finale of the show making that the center of importance, and it really has been, just sort of not at the forefront of these episodes.
I really like that because the Secret Invasion story, I think, if you're going back to the comic book lore, is really a Fantastic Four story, right?
That's
So,
right, right.
and those powers are supposed to kind of mirror the Fantastic Four powers that the Skrulls kind of adopt, right? You have Groot kind of being super stretchy, like Mr. Fantastic, the Extremis being Human Torch,
Right.
all that. Cull Obsidian is the Thing, all that kind of stuff. So there's some mirrors of it, but I'm sure you haven't read the comics. I haven't read the comics, so I think the people who are calling this like a bad series have Secret Invasion in mind, which was a huge momentous kind of event for comic books, excuse me. And this is nowhere near that. But having not seen the show, or the comic book rather, I think the show has done a pretty good job.
Yeah, I always get the gripe of the comic book reader because they've read all these comics and know all these stories, and this is supposed to be that's supposed to be this. But they have to understand, and a lot of them do, that anything done now by Marvel and the MCU has to be within the context of the MCU. They can't just introduce new stuff that hasn't already been there when you had the events of Infinity War and Endgame, because they would clearly enlist certain heroes like that. So it all has to come in context of this MCU that unfortunately the scope was kind of small when it started because they couldn't make these types of movies in 2012. So I always get like a little annoyed with those. Well, it's supposed to be that. Well, yeah, I understand that. They're doing their best here. We're fucking 40 properties in. What do you want?
Yeah, how much of a nerd can you be when the book was better and it's referring to comic books, right? That's like next level.
Yeah, so I guess just to wrap up my finale thoughts here, I am hoping Fallsworth means more going forward because Olivia Colman is a great actress, and I think she's kind of an odd fit in the MCU, but it's worked so far. So I'm here for that. I'm intrigued by who that mystery Skrull is that is Rhodey, and I wonder if all those Skrulls or all those humans get released that are in Skrullos. Like they haven't really talked about that. And then of course, this machine that has built the Super Skrulls will think what everyone's fighting over for here in the end.
Yeah, and again, I want to see what goes on with Gravik. I would like to see Gravik stick around. I think he's been
great. He's been really good,
villain, I should say.
Yeah.
And again, just him going nuts on his own crew like that, I thought that was really cool. He just slits that guy's throat right in front of everyone, and he's like, "Who wants it? Who wants some? Come get some."
Yeah. I could see a finale here where he's sort of defeated and he loses all this science stuff in the machine. But he slips away like what's the Kevin Spacey movie at the end there where he's
the Usual Suspects. Yep.
And he slips away in a very Usual Suspects type of way. Because that would be kind of cool, and it would leave him still in play.
I would like that. Or even if he gets roped up by Val or something, down on his luck. Hey, come over here. We could use her for something.
Good point. Very good point.
I like that. Good stuff. I think we're like the only people in our group chat right now that are really enjoying this show.
I'm surprised. I'm honestly surprised based off of, the bar where the level they've sort of set the last couple of years is lower than this show. This show has been above that bar. So I think.
And how many people have been saying they want like a political spy thriller, a la Winter Soldier? Like, this is what you want, and then you get it, and it's like
a more grounded MCU property, and we finally have it, and it's
more adult oriented, like some of the stuff. Like, while I liked Miss Marvel, like that wasn't really geared towards me. I understand, but this feels more like geared towards me.
Yep. News dump. All right, that's it. Just on tap for this week. I think Goo and I are going to be discussing Secret Invasion at the end of the week. I still have to see Oppenheimer. I think he still has to see Oppenheimer. So we'll probably get to Barbie and Oppenheimer next week, I'm guessing.
Nice.
So look for those 3 episodes will be our next 3. And you guys have Dead Reckoning tonight, right?
Yes. After a week off from Nick's bachelor party, we were back kind of fully no longer hungover and ready to dive into an exit survey of Tom Cruise. Go on a Tom Cruise. That's what I should have said. Can we do that over again?
Just for a little tease, where are you placing Dead Reckoning amongst the 7 Mission Impossible movies?
Yeah, so that was one of the questions there. Now, I'm actually a big Mission Impossible fan. So it's definitely better than the first 2, and I thought the whole series kind of shifts in Mission Impossible 3 with Philip Seymour Hoffman, great villain.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if it's better than 4, 5, and 6, but it's on that episode 3, the MI3 level.
Yeah. I think I pretty much agree with you 100% on that. It's not worse quality. It just wasn't my favorite.
Yeah. And again, maybe that's just because we're waiting for part 2. It leaves you hanging there.
Yeah. All right. Catch us later in the week.